All right, everyone, welcome back to the show. I'm David Nicholas. We appreciate you tuning in and joining us here for another week. I'll tell you, I think we have some of the best radio listeners here in Atlanta, so we thank you so much for tuning in. Well, folks, we are right in it. We are right in the middle of the presidential cycle. It's heating up. We've had quite a few candidates come out and announce their presidency. And this week, we had another one come out and say that they're going to be running for president. So actually with us to talk about that today, we have a very special guest. We have Miss Ginger Howard, who Ginger is the owner of a boutique here of Ginger Howard Selections in Atlanta, Georgia. She is very involved in the Republican Party. She's the head of the Buckhead Republicans. We're really excited to talk with her. Ginger, thank you so much for being with us.
David, thank you so much for having me. It's a joy to be with you, and good morning to you.
Well, good morning. Well, I just want to talk because, it's funny. I turned on my TV, and I was watching former governor of Texas, Governor Rick Perry, announce his presidential run, and there you were, right on stage. I said, that is Ginger Howard. And so you went out to Texas to hear the announcement. I mean, how was it? I mean, it seemed great watching it on TV.
I did, David. I took the early morning flight yesterday. I said there are not many people I would get up at 5 for just to go out for the day. But, yes, I went out for his announcement. He announced in Dallas, Texas, in an airport hangar in front of a C-130, which he flew when he was in the Air Force. And it was one of the most electrifying days of my life. It was amazing.
Well, he gave a great speech. And this looks like a Rick Perry that is much more buttoned up, much more prepared than his last presidential run. Would you agree with that?
I cannot tell you. It is a totally different Rick Perry. Not many people know this about the governor before because he didn't make it well known, but right before he announced in 2012, he had major back surgery 5 or 6 weeks before and was trying to avoid being on painkillers and everything, but his back was really bothering him. They did not really release that to anyone, and that was really hard for him. And not only that, but he was still the governor of Texas, which, you know, is the 12th largest economy in the world, and running that big state plus running for president is really difficult. And he learned a lot of lessons from that before. Number one, don't have back surgery before you run for president.
Right.
But number two, he has really studied for the last 2.5 years. He has gotten a wonderful man, Jeff Miller, who came in to help him, and they have just done so much back research and really have studied all the issues, and he is well prepared, I believe, now to not only run for the presidency but to win it. I saw yesterday, I watched the speech again this morning because, as you said, I was on the stage and I was screaming and hollering and every line that he said, woohoo and yay, but I couldn't really get into the meat of the speech, so I just watched it again before our interview this morning, and I just had tears in my eyes, and I felt like I'm watching the next president of the United States. I'm telling you, it was amazing.
Well, listen, we are talking to Ginger Howard. She owns Ginger Howard Selections, a boutique here in Atlanta, Georgia, very involved with the Republican Party here in Georgia. And, Ginger, I just want to talk about the experience that the governor's had. He said something about, experience or leadership is not a speech on the Senate floor,
right,
but it's really what have you done. And I think being a governor, I think that's going to give him an advantage in this race, wouldn't you say?
Well, I would definitely agree with you, David. And not only that, one of his lines from the speech was one of my favorite lines. He said, "This is going to be a show me, don't tell me race." And a lot of people can tell you all wonderful things, but he has the record to prove it. And he doesn't even have to say it. Go look at his record. Look at all the jobs that Texas brought to the United States of America. We have been in a recession, but thanks to Texas, they have helped create jobs. So many people, when he was governor of Texas, he would go to different states and court states and to bring their businesses to
Right.
Texas
I think
because
he was flying
they don't
around
have
New York
income
all
tax.
over.
He would say, come over. And so not only does he have the economic background, he was the longest-serving governor in the history of the nation. They don't have term limits in Texas. And I believe he could have run again and won. I really do. But he really felt like this was a time for him to take what he had learned in Texas and take it to the nation. And what they've done in Texas, I think we can do across the nation.
And let's talk. So there's two things that I think stand out to me about Governor Perry. Well, one is economic record. So this is a financial show. So when I actually went and pulled the numbers, I think Texas, since over the time period of the last 10 years, I believe it created something like 1.5 million jobs. So the bulk of the net jobs created here in the U.S. Over the last, I believe it's 8 to 10 years, have really come out of Texas. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, I believe maybe Lindsey Graham, are one of the only candidates that have actually had military experience. One thing, Ginger, so Governor Perry came to Atlanta a little while, but he was gracious enough to come and speak. And Ginger, I was with you in the car. We were driving him back to the airport. And one thing he said, he really stood out to me. He said, being governor, he had to write these letters to the families who had lost sons and daughters in war. And you know what he said? He said a day didn't go by where he wrote one of those letters where it felt like it was one of his own kids or one of his loved ones that he was having to write this very tough letter. And he talked about the cost of war. And you know what I walked away with? That he's cautious. He knows the cost of war. He's not someone that's just willing to jump back in. Like, I think Lindsey Graham made a comment about that. But he's also not afraid to defend this country. And that really spoke to me.
David, I'm so glad you brought that up because I wanted to talk about how he made his announcement yesterday. Behind him, he had Marcus Luttrell, who many of your listeners may have seen the movie Lone Survivor and know the story about Marcus. He had Taya Kyle, Chris Kyle's wife, which that movie just came out, The American Sniper. He had Dan Moran. He had World War II. I mean, he had veterans behind him, and he talked about that, and he talked about their sacrifices. And I cried again watching that this morning because he knows the cost, and he did serve. And his father, who is 90, is still alive, and he served, and he was precious and there yesterday. But he knows the cost of war, and he has befriended these soldiers, and he's helped them with their veterans benefits and helped them get the help that they need because, as you know, and some of your listeners may know, what a mess our VA hospital and that administration has done to that whole VA system. It's a mess.
And having someone that I think really is working on behalf of the veterans in this country, I think is going to be huge. Folks, we were talking to Ginger Howard. She was actually at Governor Rick Perry's announcement for president this week. Ginger, we just have a couple minutes, but I want to play a clip. I was watching Morning Joe, and Governor Perry was on Friday, and Mia Brzezinski actually said that the governor was charming, and I thought that was interesting. But he also they asked about his wife and his family, so I'm just going to play this clip and then we can comment.
They don't trust America's leadership to be there when they need them.
How's your family?
They're great. I got 2 grandbabies now. Nita's in the process of finishing up the house she's been working on for about a year and a half. And every time it clouded up, it rained east of Austin, so we're making progress.
She seemed to be pretty pumped, pretty excited when she announced your candidacy. I mean, the last time was kind of tough for everybody, but looks like she's in it to win it.
She is. I would hate to run for president, or I'd hate to run for school board for that matter, if my spouse wasn't for me. Mine is. She's committed. She's a patriot. Those young men and women on the stage standing with me yesterday, they're really important to her. I mean, she's every bit as much a power behind this effort to make sure our veterans get the care that they need as I am.
All right, Governor Rick Perry, it's good to have you back on the show.
Thank you.
We'd love to have you, man.
Thanks, Governor.
Thank you for coming.
Very nice, very charming.
Thank you. As are you.
So I said, wow. I mean, if he can get that, he's very charming from Mia. That says a lot.
Well, I also heard that Chris Matthews said he was a class act.
He's a class act.
Was from the same man that Obama gave tingles down his spine or leg or something like that. So I think that's pretty high praise.
It really is. It really is. And we just got a minute here. But Ginger, I know that you know Governor Perry. You know his sweet wife Anita. Just talk a little bit about Governor Perry and just kind of who he is as a man and why our listeners may want to really consider him as he makes this run for president. We got about a minute.
Okay, well, David, I do know Rick and Anita very well. I've become personal friends with them in the last several years, and I know their hearts, and they have servants' hearts. What they have done for Marcus Luttrell, they took him in. I have seen them. They treat everyone the exact same. They are so they could be with the Pope, and they can be with the waitress at a restaurant and make them feel just as comfortable. And I had two friends that I took out to Texas to meet them, and they lost their luggage. And they were so upset. They did not want to go to the mansion in jeans. But I called Rick and Anita and told them, they said, do not worry. We will change. We will put on jeans. We do not want them to feel uncomfortable. That is the kind of couple that I want in the White House. They are wonderful people. They love God. They love our country. They care about the future. And I'm going to do everything I can to help them. And I hope your listeners will take a good look at Rick Perry.
Well, Ginger, we appreciate you being with us. And Ginger, if our listeners want to find out a little bit more, your story, tell us where Ginger's Howard Selections
Ginger
is.
Howard Selections on Peachtree Road, 3164 Peachtree Road, or you can go gingerhowardselections.com, right at your fingertips.
Well, Ginger, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it. We'd love to have you back on again.
Thank you, David. I so enjoyed it. You have a great day.
You too. Well, folks, we appreciate you tuning in. It's been a great show. If you have questions, you can go to our website, which is nicholaswealth.com. That is nicholaswealth.com. Have a wonderful week. We'll see you guys back here next week. We'll talk to you then.